After making the bold decision of swapping Liverpool captaincy for Steven Gerrard's Al Ettifaq, Jordan Henderson came, saw, conquered, and helped fuse the ideologies of the Western world and Saudi Arabia for about 25 minutes.
Well, my work is done here.
What do you mean your work is done? You didn't do anything.
The bubble might have burst on Jordan Henderson's time in Saudi Arabia, but has it burst for the league as a whole? With a small exodus of players deciding that the Saudi Pro League isn't for them, are we starting to see the beginning of the end for the project, or are they still on the road to taking over the modern world of football? Good afternoon. One thing that's followed the growth of football throughout the entirety of its history is money. Cash, Wonga, Moolah, Hovis, you name it. Whether it be the Sky Sports era of the Premier League in the 90s, the late 90s and early 2000s in Italy, the Chinese Super League, England again, like kind of at any point during its footballing history. Where there's a lot of money, you will see a lot of players go there. And that is exactly what we saw for the Saudi Pro League in 2023. Pioneered by Cristiano Ronaldo and Piers Morgan, the Al Nassr project that featured the likes of himself, Sadio Mané, Marcelo Brozovic, and then that saw further big names like Karim Benzema, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, Laporte, Bobby Firmino, and Moussa Dembele. It looked like there was only one way that football was going because of outrageous contract deals. A lot of players in the twilight of their careers couldn't turn down. We were even seeing young, hot prospects like Gabri Veiga making the switch for European football over to the Middle East. Funded by a big Saudi Arabian state-owned clubs, European clubs were going to struggle to keep hold of their players. But for Jordan Henderson, and this journey had greater meaning. It wasn't just about the money. Oh no. It was about hoping to fuse beliefs and make the world a better place by hitting a pass accuracy of 83% for a team managed by Steven Gerrard. When he first joined the club, you saw a lot of social media posts from the former Liverpool captain giving his support to Saudi Arabia's World Cup bid for 2034, and also just consistently posting about how much he loved the country and just the fact that he was generally enjoying himself, but clearly behind the scenes he wasn't. Reports suggested that he wanted to leave the country and he could be seen drifting it to his local airport. And there was talk of his potential return to Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp knew what was coming when he received a phone call from a Saudi Arabia number. Ibrahim Konate was simply not having it when he saw his former teammate try and sneak back onto the pitch in disguise. Get that fucking hat out of here, mate. And Alexis McAllister already knew what his answer was when he was asked the question, did he want to start in a double pivot with Jordan Henderson?
I'm not gonna be here.
It's fair to say that deal wasn't going to happen, but things were starting to get a little bit desperate regardless, and maybe he won't have felt too pleased with himself after arriving back at Heathrow Airport having done absolutely nothing for LGBT rights whatsoever in Saudi Arabia. And he will continue to feel pretty bad about that move, given apparently he may not earn a single penny from his time in Saudi Arabia. That's because he elected to defer his wages and defer his earnings so later on into his contract to, I think, avoid tax hits in the UK. But given he's now left the club 6 months later, those earnings may genuinely not come back to him. He genuinely went out there for free. That is work experience, boss. He went for vibes alone. Can you imagine him logging into his NatWest, seeing his bank account in comparison to his former teammates? He's just missed out on $7.8 billion. Now, not at any point am I attempting to be disrespectful to Jordan Henderson's career. And we'll get onto the broader topic of Saudi Arabia in a second and all the other players that are potentially wanting to leave. But on the face of Jordan, ultimately has provided some of my best memories as a Liverpool fan. You know, the Champions League final victory over Tottenham, finally getting to see my team win a Premier League trophy for the first time in my life. Where Jordan Henderson needs to be called out is not because he went to Saudi Arabia for the money. So many players have done that. We don't get on to Roberto Firmino in the same way, but because Jordan Henderson was such a spearhead and public figure in support of LGBTQ rights in terms of the Rainbow Laces campaign in the Premier League, going to Saudi Arabia where it is quite literally illegal to be gay is a direct contrast and shows that you are putting money over your morals, and then by shrouding that in, oh, I'm going over there to try and help the situation, only to then leave 6 months later and to then basically do up propaganda for the league as well with the social media posts, Insta stories, and videos of him vocally supporting the Saudi Arabian World Cup campaign, and he's only been in the country for a month. It's just all a little bit hypocritical. Those Saudi Arabian nights didn't really pan out how he thought they wanted to.
I love football, so I want to try to grow it all over the world.
And honestly, my wife not really being allowed to leave the house is one of the more unique reasons for a player wanting to leave a club. Oh, babes, honestly, I cannot wait to see the game with you tonight. So obviously, hey, look, listen, B. So B League. Ultimately, part of the reason why some of these players are wanting to leave is because they're struggling to assimilate to the culture of Saudi Arabia. And it seems to have been the case with Jordan, but also with Bobby Firmino as well, who vocally seems like he wants to leave, and Karim Benzema, who's not been training with Al Ittihad for a little while. There's also been other examples of players that have wanted to leave very soon after joining their clubs. And the culture shock and, you know, moving so far away with your family, and whether your family actually enjoys living out there, are of course major issues as to why these guys haven't been able to adapt. I think that was also backed when during the Spanish Supercopa, there was a minute's silence for Franz Beckenbauer, who of course sadly passed away, one of the icons and legends of the beautiful game, the pioneer of the modern centre-back really. And during the minute's silence, there was a lot of jeering and whistling going on from Saudi Arabian fans, because obviously that tournament is held there for, well, for financial reasons. Obviously, it was very disrespectful to a man that had just passed away. I believe it's to do with, like, being in silence in a space like that isn't seen as respectful in the culture out there, but to play devil's advocate, fans from the Western world and from Europe and stuff told to go over to Qatar and respect their traditions, so that's a tradition that's happening for a Spanish Cup game. You probably have to respect that. But there are probably other reasons as well. Attendances in this league are borderline pathetic, right? There are some games where you've got about 600 fans attending a Saudi top division game. Now, to put that into perspective, there are games in the 8th tier of English football that sometimes reach 1,000 attendees in terms of fans at the games. So you are, in some instances, getting almost half the fans at a Saudi Pro League game as you would at an amateur level in England. But in fairness, some of those games where those low attendances are happening are amongst teams down towards the bottom end of the Saudi Pro League. And we have to remember that only the top, I think, 6 clubs are actually state funded. So it's only really those clubs that have been bringing in the big names. Well, there's not that many people, that's the whole point. But if you're supporting a team that finished 11th in the Saudi Pro League, you've probably not got any of those big names. If you're going to go and watch a Pro League match and really get invested in it, you might only go and watch a game where you're playing Al Nassr, because then you can go and see Cristiano Ronaldo. You're not then going to travel all the way across the country, large distances between games and stadiums, just to watch your 11th place team face bottom of the league. That's just not the case. I mean, that would be the case in England because we all love football so much, but the prospect of going and watching a team play football in Saudi Arabia is still a relatively new thing to a lot of people in that country. The culture of getting on a shit train to go and watch your team potentially lose 2-1 to Luton Town, that hasn't arrived there yet. That comes with history. But it is something that needs to be rectified if there is going to be long-term success in that league. You know, ultimately, some of the biggest leagues in the world, the likes of Spain, Germany, France, England, the fans are so passionate. That's how you get stability in a footballing world, is by having a strong pyramid. There isn't even a strong pyramid within the Pro League, let alone divisions below. And if you are getting a situation every single year where a large amount of like high-profile players are joining the league and raising the status of it, but then 50% of those players then leave the very next transfer window because they can't adapt, the longevity and stability of the league is really going to get hurt by that. But on the flip side, I say there's an exodus. There are still players out there that are sticking around, that seem like they're enjoying playing football in the country. The likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, the likes of Alexander Mitrovic or Aymeric Laporte. Is this like the beginning of the end for Saudi Arabian football? I don't think so, ultimately. This isn't like the Chinese Super League, lads. These lot have actual endless money. Unless Saudi Arabia decide we don't actually care about football anymore as a whole. But what I think this has shown, this little mini exodus, is that not every single player is going to be willing to go there. I don't think we're ever necessarily going to end up with a situation where every single one of the best footballers in the world play in Saudi Arabia for multiple reasons. Whether it be the lack of attendances and passion from fans, whether it be getting used to the culture out in Saudi Arabia, or whether it just be the fact that there's just not the highest playing standards over there and that they're not going to be featuring the Champions League. We've already seen the likes of a Victor Osimhen turn down a Saudi Arabian move in the summer that's just gone. Maybe a few other of the big players in the world will follow in his footsteps too. And I think if ultimately there are people that are simply not welcome in Saudi Arabia and in that nation, you're gonna end up in a position where not everybody can go over there and can move or will feel comfortable doing so. But if you don't care about all that, if you've just turned 33 and you're not getting into the first team of your European challenging side, then boy, has the Saudi Pro League got a deal for you.
You want a job? Come to me. Wallahi, I'll get you a job.
What do you make of this situation? Jordan Henderson leaving Saudi Arabia, and it seems like a few pretty high-profile players are going to follow suit. Is this the beginning of the end of the Saudi Arabian project, or just a bump in the road? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, though, feel free to slap a like on it, and of course, subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is @theofficialfng on Twitter, Insta, and TikTok. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.